Everything is personal right here. Everything is personal right here.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Everything is Personal. And today our guest is Debbie Allen. How are you, Debbie?
I'm good. Dogs and cats too. Anybody wants to listen in and eavesdrop into the conversation.
I guess I need to change my intro from, boys and girls because I think I'm excluding people who anybody who identifies as anything is always welcome. Come on board.
Well, this one might be rated R. Well, we haven't started yet, but I could get edgy if you want me to. So
They're all rated R, so
rating on
bring
this
it.
one.
Bring
Just
it.
men and women, no boys and girls, no cats and dogs in this episode.
There you go. All right, men and women. Um, did anybody ever I'm just curious because if they don't know you and they see they're booking you for a speaking engagement, did they ever think that it was the Debbie Allen from Fame?
Yes, I've had that many times. Like, oh, they're expecting something completely different. But I actually had a speakers bureau book me, and the fee was really high. I mean, it sounded like an amazing gig, and where it was in the Bermuda, and I'm like, oh, I've never been there, and they have a really big budget, but it's like the bureau usually knows what I'm charging, but I'm like, maybe they want me to do other things. I'm not quite sure. So they were all excited. Yes, you have the date open. We went through all that whole process, and then they came back and said, "Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I thought you were Debbie Allen from Fame, the dance choreographer." I'm like,
I was going to ask you about your career as a dancer.
yes, yeah, it involved a pole. No, it was not really, but
Well, that's fine.
maybe some bars, a top of bars, maybe.
There you go. We were talking previous to starting this. You stepped into business at age 19. I was wondering what gave you the confidence at 19? Because I remember, like, I have a 20-year-old daughter who goes to a university, and I'm just trying to think about, how would it be? Like, you have to have a certain level of confidence, or is it like my back is against the wall and this is it, and I have no other choice than to jump into entrepreneurship at such an early age?
Well, it's a great question. And yes, generations are much different now. At age 20, I owned my own home and, had already owned a bit. It was owning a business. And it was like, yeah, hard to believe, but I'm married at 21. Yeah, it was kind of crazy. But yeah, I jumped into everything. And I had to go through a couple trial husbands to figure that out. I had to go through a few businesses to figure things out as well. But when I started at 19, yeah, it was basically taking the school bus, even my senior year, to the family business. And my dad started being an entrepreneur later in life, and he started this car rental business with 5 cars. Then my brother got involved, and he, gave my brother part of the business. And I just wanted to be part of that too, because I could never imagine myself going to college, never went a day of college, could never even imagine myself having a job, like showing up for somebody else. I was just always very independent. So I was like, okay, that kind of feeds my independence. And then learn how to build a business and watch it grow. And then I bought in to the business at age 19 and put part of my paycheck every single month to make the payment on it, because I knew that I would have more vested, even at that age. I'd have more invested into the business if I was part owner. But see, I was just a kind of a different kind of a kid growing up. I mean, even in elementary school, I was like working in the office. Like I wanted to see behind the scenes. I wasn't a good student on anything I had to learn that I didn't like, so got basic grades, just barely got through high school. But when I wanted to learn something, I was totally a sponge and everything. But there was just something about the business world, even before my dad started a business, that I wanted to be involved in. And I think it was that entrepreneurial independence. You can do what you want, do what you love. And if it isn't working or you don't like it anymore, you can change it. And that's still my motto today till today. It's if it's not fun anymore, I'm not going to do it. And so I think that's what motivated me. Like if it doesn't work and I don't learn in this business as it grows, I'm going to have to go get a job. And that's just not something that was even an option to me.
I mean, fear can be a driver or it can be deterrent. So when you're getting into this and you were saying, okay, I had a similar mindset maybe I don't really want to work for anybody, even though I was forced to and I had to. But that fear of not wanting to do something was pushing me towards,
Mhm.
doing something. And then you also have, my dad's voice in my head is, don't fuck up, don't make mistakes. Like this fear of making mistakes. So was there any fear in 19-year-old going into, business and being able to be out there and be exposed and be sort of quote unquote judged for
Yeah.
what you're doing at that point,
I
or was
think
it a motivator?
every day in that car rental business was fearful. Like it was nuts. Like I can't even believe my family got me involved in this because I mean, we grew up outside of Gary, Indiana, which is really kind of an armpit, right? And back then, people didn't even have credit cards. They would come in and they'd be drug lords and they'd be renting cars and renting vans for drive-by shootings, right? And then they didn't really, they would get on a payphone and because you'd be verifying their phone numbers, they'd be on a payphone like, oh yeah, so and so lives here, and it's like you'd have to fill out these cards back then. Like, just trust these people to take your car. And sometimes they would bring a band back. And I remember one I rented to, she says, I'm taking Girl Scouts up to Chicago and it's going to be such a fun day and everything. Well, she was renting it for this drug gang and they did a drive-by shooting with it. So as soon as the van got dumped off, the cops are there, fingerprinting it and doing all this stuff. We found drugs in the car. We
Anything good? No,
yeah, yeah. Back then I didn't know anything, right? Except that they were selling drugs through the car wash. Like, 'cause it was right next door. Like, we built a car wash thing, right? And it was like the kids that are working there are selling drugs. I'm like, what a deal, man! You come in, you pay for the car wash. It was like kind of a slick deal. Who knows how long they were pulling that off? So, I mean, I grew up in a really tough environment. Like my parents wouldn't take me out to like, let's go to a park and play, go to some cool thing. Like we'd go get in a car and go repossess rental cars. That's like that was our fun adventure, so it was like a high. But I think the thing I learned to grow up in a tough environment like that was you got to do whatever it takes in business. And my biggest frustrations were really my father just being kind of a gambler with business because once we had the successful businesses, the car rental, and then we were the first in that area to start mini storage that blew up and we sold to Public Storage, big company, and that was my first $1 million company with the family before age 30. But it was all the other things. There's probably 20 or 30 businesses he started, like, and then just threw them in our lap. So you can imagine your 20s, like me and my brother are like fending for ourselves. We're trying to run this car rental business that is growing massively. We're starting a new business, which is the mini storage, two huge facilities. Like we didn't have any training. And it was just very stressful. I mean, 5 phone lines ringing, always putting out fires. But you know what, Len, I wouldn't take it back for the world because if you're thrown in the fire at a young age to learn business, like you can handle pretty much anything after
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I tell my daughter all the time about there's such a difference between going to school and learning and then going out in the real world and learning. There's really nothing that I learned in my university, except for anatomy and physiology, because I was a physical therapy major that I actually know bones and muscles, which helps me to understand and speak to doctors, basically. But besides that, there's nothing. So I said to her, just take courses that you really enjoy,
Hmm.
get something out of it, because it's not going to be useful for you in the real world. So you mentioned you grew up in Indiana in a smaller town, and you had one brother.
One brother, one sibling, yep. So
And
both of us are serial entrepreneurs our whole life. Yeah.
your parents were together, right? And
Right.
then
My mom worked in the office. My brother, the whole family worked there.
everybody's working the family business
Yep.
at a young age too, and then some things you described. But as a kid, what were your interests? Just being an entrepreneur? Did you have interests in art or sports or what kind of kid were you?
No, I really didn't have interest in sports and art and things like that. I mean, I really liked working. I liked business. I liked seeing how something grew and developed. And I don't really even understand like where that came from. Like even when I was at school, like how does that work? How does that behind the scene? How do they run this? I just kind of always wanted to see that, but I was never really technical, but I'm always I'm very strategic, but I'm also really creative. So I'm like, I think just those things that I've been through, and like what I told you earlier was, learning to do what you love. And I think I was thrown into a business I didn't love. I learned a lot, and I look back and I'm thankful for that. But I certainly didn't love, car rental business. Mini storage was pretty easy to do, but I mean, it was a tough business and it wasn't my passion. I didn't find my passion until I was 30. And that is when I bought a business that was a women's clothing store that my mom had because she had left the family business because she was like, I don't like this. And then my dad's like, oh, okay, I'll open up a clothing store for you. And she just did it like a hobby, right? So she lost money for 6 years. So when I left the family business, because now we got money because we sold them, the business, so the mini storage business, I pulled out my funds for that, and I'm like, I'm leaving. And yeah, my dad.
But what happened to the car rental
It's
business?
still there. It's 50
Okay.
years. Like my brother still owns it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So the business that you exited was a storage business and you added on to the car rental business and
Yep.
then your mom didn't want to be part of that business. So she got into clothing and that wasn't really her passion and you took that over. Is that
Well, she was moving. So she decided, hey, I'm going to move. Buy my business. I'm moving. Like that way, no
oh,
mentoring or anything. What do I know about a clothing store? I never worked a day in retail in my life, but I thought it was fun when I would go to market with her. So I bought the business and I realized, oh my gosh, the driving force, Len, that forced me to not be afraid to keep pushing and growing that business was my dad was pissed that I left and he put me down and saying, well, what makes you think you're going to make that work? Like, that's just stupid. That's crazy. And then my husband at the time was, I'm not signing for a bank loan for you because I don't believe in it. And so I had to go to a bank, many years ago and go by myself and get a loan when you're married at that time was more challenging. But I had already built relationships with the bankers because I was, involved in this business community that had grown big. So yeah, I got the bank loan and I took it over. And then I realized, okay, I'm going to prove it to not just myself, but to them. I'm going to turn this business around. And so I would go to market where, this trade show, you'd buy all kinds of stuff for your store. And I would ask the sales reps, I said, hey, can I work your booth? Because you didn't hire mentors back then. There wasn't somebody like, we can do that now. And I said, can I work your trade show booth? I'll stay a couple days at the show and I'll just work for free. I just want to talk to some of your successful retailers if you just introduce me to them. And then one said, yeah, sure, that'd be great. And I started working his show and I met these people and they invited me to a group that they belong to, is what we would call now like more of a mastermind.
yeah.
And within 6 months, I had a buying office in New York with them and they were sharing every hotline in the country and sharing every marketing strategy. And I fell in love with marketing and I blew my business up from 100,000 to 2.5 million in just 2 years, just because I did everything that they told me to do. So, I built and sold those retail stores 15 years, and it made sense for me for the next thing. I didn't even know, like, I was looking for that next chapter. So you might be listening, going, I'm looking for my next chapter, my next thing. What is I want to do? And you don't always see it in front of you. But I knew I wanted to help people be successful because I felt those mentors helped me, and I wanted to kind of pay it forward. And then 25 years later, as a professional speaker, it's still the same. I share the stage because I want to help people be successful. And that's the main reason to this day. And what an incredible career that turned out to be. I didn't even know that speaking was a business. It's like, I just went to one of those trade shows and went, why don't you have seminars here? And then one of the sales reps, he knew the guy that ran the show in Vegas, and he said, hey, well, I'll get you booked here to speak. You should be speaking here. I'm like, what? And what should I charge? And then the guy comes over and I said, growing your retail business to the next level. And then my sales rep said, charge $1,000. And I said, really? And so then he goes, yeah, okay, I'd love to have you do that. And I said, oh, great. I'm going to prove to you need seminars and I'm going to fill that room standing room only. What the hell did I know about that, Len? Zip. And it's Vegas and it's morning. And I got to get all my sales reps there too, because they got to get people there. So I got them promoting it. I'm on the shuttle bus passing out flyers, but I filled that room, standing room only, and that launched my speaking career 25 years ago.
I love that. I want to go back to your clothing store business because I want people to get it seems like it's fast, right? Like, so you went through it, bam, 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 next, next, next. But it really, when you're in it, it's not, right? So when you come
Yeah.
in to a situation and you're assessing, as you said, maybe it's bleeding money, like with the knowledge that you gained in the car rental business, whatever that was, and sort of your intuition, you're coming into this business, you're buying it, you said, man, I have some interest in going to market and, buying samples and ordering and all that stuff, but I don't really know in the business. What do you do? What action do you take? Like, is there a mental checklist that you go through to sort of assess the business and then, pivot and make those modifications?
Well, I knew that like one little store wasn't going to make me money, and I knew that there's two things that an entrepreneur must do. They need to build to sell or build to magnify, and I knew that early on. And I had read the book E-Myth, and it doesn't matter if you have building a franchise or whatever, it's building systems in place, building it. And so, I kind of followed that model. It's like, okay, I'm gonna have to have multiple stores and I'm building these to sell them. I'm not going to have them forever because fashion wasn't my first love. Business was my first love. So that really helped me be successful in business because I always looked at it with very common sense business strategy. And I learned from my dad just building businesses and throwing his money everywhere that it doesn't work unless you're 100% focused and you have a vision and you got a plan and you follow that plan. You just can't, go in a million directions. And so that was the biggest lesson I learned. And so I'm incredibly focused to this day. I'm very strategic. I'm very common sense with business. I've even become kind of a business intuitive because I'm in business so long. So when people give me an idea, I can actually see it happening, like visually happening for them, and then put a step together. Like, in 1 year you'll be here and here and here, and I've done that. I've been able to put a plan together and then manifest it over and over again. And I think that's an incredible skill that they certainly don't teach you that in college. They don't teach you that. I think it's a really big gift that I have. And I think it comes from the passion of just loving business. And it makes sense that I'd want to be a mentor, a consultant, a speaker, all of those things, something to give back because my biggest gift, my second biggest gift, first biggest gift was learning entrepreneur at a young age. But second gift was that first group of mentors that just, helped me so much. I just had no idea I could. So when I was in the middle of that, I really had no idea what I was doing as far as it was going so fast. It was just fun and it was exciting. Then I made another critical mistake was second husband married the guy that introduced me to the fashion groups, right? Because then he was like my mentor, like he was like the guy in the fashion industry in Chicago. And it was like, wow, how exciting, what a life we had, right? That was another trial. But I'm now in my third and final
We
soulmate
hope.
marriage. It just took me a while. I was not brilliant in everything. I was going to put it out there because it's like, I am human. Okay. There usually when you're focused on one thing so strongly in business, especially, sometimes other pieces of your life fail for a while until you figure that out.
100%. I mean, even from personal experience, first of all, I think everybody should have a trial marriage, like get all the mistakes out on that one, and the next one maybe is better. But
Are
it's
you
really,
telling your 20-year-old daughter this?
I am. She knows.
Everybody else except your
She
family.
knows we're divorced. I'm divorced, so she knows.
Yeah.
She knows I'm in a great relationship now. But you said something that I really want to kind of emphasize a little bit. That this work-life balance. I mean, maybe if you're a 9 to 5 employee, maybe there's an opportunity for a work-life balance. I never understood what people meant about work-life balance when you're an entrepreneur. This is like another child. Like it's 24/7. You get there's no guardrails. And sometimes I do have to say, all right, this is family time, but for the most part, you're treating this as a child. Like your business is always there, always available, and always in need of your time and resources and all these other things. So it's probably very difficult on relationships with your significant other, kids, family members, because in order to be successful, as you said, you need to focus and you need to put in, full effort. So do you feel that that affected your relationships with others as well,
Oh,
like your
most
passion?
definitely. I was completely driven. Yeah, that was like really a big thing for me for many years. And I had to learn that down the road of business lifestyle as an entrepreneur and financial freedom through that. And as you have been in the business a while and you've been a mentor a long time, you don't have to work as hard and you can even make more money. And I learned that where, I can charge this much to work with people, just sharing my knowledge and giving them direction. And then I'm only working with this many people. So now if you want to work with me personally, you're going to pay a top dollar. I have programs that are from $4,000 to $100,000. It's if somebody wants to build something and build it fast, and then they want to do a partnership program with me, there's that opportunity. But I never, I had to learn that thinking too, because in an entrepreneur, there's like, you can be a business owner that creates a job for yourself, which is keeping you stuck. That is not a true entrepreneur. And it's really interesting that Entrepreneur Magazine, I love them because they're one of my favorite publishers that publish one of my books. But if you look at them now, they really should be called Franchise Magazine. And people buy franchises because they want to be an entrepreneur, but they're not entrepreneurs. They're business owners. They're buying businesses. Unless you take a franchise and build multiple locations and you do that and your plan is to build them and sell them, now you're a true entrepreneur. That is a different type of thinking with that. So I've always built it to sell it or build it to grow bigger, where it doesn't take as much of my time, but the people that get my time, it's incredibly value and they get incredible return on investment. So I've been able to now monetize my knowledge. And that's what I teach other people to do, is monetize your knowledge and your wisdom as an expert and sell that with your coaching or mentoring program, or put on an event or speak and sell it that way.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk to you about that in more detail so we can learn a little bit of what to do there so you can, and then come, and hire you to coach them along the way. I want to talk about mindset a little bit because I'm curious. You mentioned your dad sort of didn't have a belief. He was upset that you were leaving your workout, and maybe in some way he wanted to prove, oh, you're not going to be successful unless you're with me. When you exited out of your own company, like you made this transition and you made changed things around, and then you had a successful, million plus whatever exit. Mindset wise, how did you feel about yourself at that point, and were you able to, see yourself differently and then take that feeling of how you see yourself and into your next ventures?
Yeah, a lot of what I got from my dad was I'm constantly trying to prove myself. I became a workaholic because I got to prove myself. Like that one sentence, and we all do this. You're listening to this now, and you can remember one sentence or a few words that somebody told you, especially your parents or a teacher or something growing up, and it carries it for life. And that was, this, how are you going to make that happen? Like that doubt in his head, that sentence of that. And it's like, does that make me kind of always wanting to prove myself and do better, and was a workaholic for quite a while, and that really, yeah, that affects relationships. It could have, luckily it didn't affect my health, but it did affect my health even in my 20s. I went kind of past that. I've been healthy, lucky, knock on wood, and my parents are still alive in their 90s now, living separate lives and living in their own separate homes. My dad's not driving, but my mom still drives, still volunteers at the hospital, 93 years old. And why is that? Because they got a passion, they've got something they like doing, and they continue to do that. They continue to be social with people. Because I remember even growing up and see my mom, like she was so social, like she could just walk in a room and like everybody just fell in love with her. She's so outgoing. I'm like, how the hell did she do that? And I'm like, well, I've surpassed her many times over now. It's like, but it's just like you learn. I think I learned from her, and you look back and go, oh, I learned this and I learned this, but I put my personality on it, and did it the way I wanted to do it. But I think that the gift that my mom gave me, was that she always believed in me, and she always had such confidence in me. Like, I think that she grew up with such lack of self-esteem and confidence that she always said, you're my only girl. I had you because I want you to have the confidence that I never had. And she's still like that today, my biggest cheerleader. And I'm like very blessed.
It's really interesting that you said like, my dad had certain words for me that resonated in my head. And as, as I go through my life and I did a lot of self-discovery and personal development work, there was this voice that was in my head. And even subconsciously, I want to prove my dad that I can be successful. And I don't know why that, but it was ingrained since we were kids. I wonder, did you have this moment of validation, of personal validation at some point? Or is it still something that resonates with you a little bit as a motivator in your life?
I think my strive was like in my 50s because my dad finally said, I'm so proud of you. And he came to one of my speaking engagements and actually said, oh, this is what you do? Like in front of hundreds of people. This is really cool. Like, wow, I'm so proud of you. I was like, wow, I never heard that. I never heard him say, I love you hardly ever. I never heard him say he's proud of me. So it was kind of like that kind of let me off the hook, I think. It's like, why am I still trying to prove this? But yeah, 50s, like ridiculous how long we can hold on to stuff. Like your dad said, don't fuck it up, don't screw things up. And it's
Yeah.
like you hold on to that. I can't fuck this up. And it's in our head. And so, yeah, I mean, even though we've all done, if unless, like you said, Lynn, I can already feel that from you. Like you've done that personal work. Me too. Even though I teach business and I love business, I did a lot of personal development work. I mean, sweat lodges and all kinds of crazy stuff. And hiring some of the top personal development coaches and got me to a different place. And I think that made me a better mentor, consultant, speaker, everything. Because one of the things that Barbara DeAngelis is one of my personal development coaches. She's written many New York Times bestsellers. She said, Deb, you're a good speaker, but you could be great if you learned how to tap in. I said, well, Barbara, I was doing my own live events, then bringing her in. And she was like, I'm like a fangirl. I said, but you teach like love and personal development and heart. I'm teaching business. She goes, it doesn't matter. You can talk to people in a way you connect your head to your heart and come from that place. And you'll see when you learn how to just start tapping in. I didn't even know tapping in, but then I started thinking about it and I started tapping in and getting really good. I was probably 8 years into my speaking business career before I tapped in, changed everything. I
Everything.
loved it. I was so connected to the audience. They were so connected to me. It was just being authentic, really, because it's really like anybody that starts speaking, they turn into somebody like completely different. Like, who are you? you know?
I mean, I really want to emphasize what you just said because it's so, so, so important. I mean, I'm a speaker in different events, and I've been to so many different events, and there's a disconnect when you see or hear a speaker, and they could be brilliant, and they can be talking about something they really know, but I there's a disconnect, right? Like you can see it, and they're still going on and talking, but you're not connecting to the audience. And I always thought maybe it's passion, maybe it's I did my script. I studied my PowerPoint presentation. I know exactly what bullets I'm going to say, but you're not engaging. And I always like when growing up, I wanted to be a rock star. Like I wanted to be on stage and perform, and never got a chance to do that. But as a speaker, you get to do that, but you don't really get the applause comes at the end, or hopefully you get applause, but you don't get that exchange of energy. So I actually found that if you're engaging a little bit more with the audience and you start getting this flow of energy back and forth, that's the best. You're in this bubble that all of you in, and it seems like a private moment, and it's really hard to get to. First of all, people are scared to speak in public. Second of all, when they do, they practice and practice and practice. They have this disconnect. So I was wondering, when you realized this about yourself, what was that sort of tipping point where you said, I'm speaking, but that connection with the audience, as you're reflecting back to me now, when did that actually happen and what changed?
Well, I was still speaking in the retail industry back then. And when it shifted, it was like I was giving the same speech, but it was completely different when I had tapped in. They were so connected during it. There was more smiles, there was more laughs, there was more applause. But the thing after that really shifted, that I knew I shifted, was somebody came up to me, and since then, many times people have come up to me and said the same thing. And this is the most powerful thing. more than any applause or anything is I felt like you were speaking directly to me. It's
That's
like,
it.
whoa. You know, it doesn't matter if it's 20 people in the room, 2,000 people in the room. When somebody comes and says, I felt like you were speaking directly to me, that connection was there. I tapped in. And I would always think, you know, especially when as you're a speaker, you always start with smaller rooms and then you go to thousands and you go, oh, I want to I spoke in 28 countries, so many different cultures, so many people are people, if you're really authentic, you can relate to everybody everywhere, even when they don't understand you. And there's a translator, they will be hanging on every word they can't even understand. But it's your energy, it's what you're putting out there. It's really, really powerful when it's real and authentic. And that's when you really become a good speaker, because some of my favorite times from stage weren't the thousands of people. They were when even having my own stage, being able to do it the way I want to do it. And then just sitting at the end of the stage and going, I ran out of material and going, let's just have a conversation, or sit on a bar stool and just have a conversation with the audience and let it flow. And it was so cool
Yeah.
because it was so connected. And I feel comfortable enough to do that. Like, I don't have to worry if I forget my material. I know my material. And everybody that's a speaker should be speaking on what they love, what they're passionate about, what they're an expert at. And if you're doing that, you don't have any fear of speaking because you know your stuff. No matter what anybody asks you, you're going to come up with an answer. They ask me anything about professional speaking, speaking and selling, speaking internationally, any of that stuff. I've done it for so many years. Just ask me any question on that, and I could just sit there and chat for hours with somebody. And I think that's the way you need to be when if you want to own a stage, is you have to own your expertise first, and then let it just flow sometimes. Just trust yourself enough. That's when you get good, when you really can trust yourself enough to say, okay, PowerPoint went down, everything went down. Let me just flow with this.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you because people are dependent on their slides as a crutch. And if they go down, I've seen it so many times, people get flustered, but the slides are not there. They actually are just a distraction. I really feel like that interaction with the audience is key, as you said, and being authentic to yourself and know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they
That,
are in some way, but I believe in slides. I always have PowerPoint
oh,
slides
sure.
because it keeps you on point. Because otherwise, if I'm teaching somebody how to do a speech without slides, they're going to go off and segue into another story. Then they're going to go overtime. And I'm really teaching them how to speak and sell mostly. I teach them a little bit of platform skills, but that's not my main thing. I want them to make money from that speech. So it's completely different. We put a bit together the offer first, completely reverse engineer the offer, and then put a presentation that flows to that offer.
Yeah.
So you think about all the problems people go through, and the solution to the problem is working with you at the end. And that's really like where the money is in the speaking business.
Yeah, so you're a world expert, a global expert on positioning. And I wanted to see if you have a pattern, like what inner block people face most that doesn't allow them to truly step into their authority. Is there a pattern of an inner block that you've noticed through the many people that you've worked with?
Well, they have to, even before they start working with me, they have to apply. And I usually do like a discovery call, getting to know them. If there is any inner block, they use the words, I'm doubting myself. I'm fearful of making money. I'm fearful of taking my business to the next level. I feel like I have imposter syndrome. Brakes go off in my head. I just go, I would love to help you, but I am not the right fit for you. I'm very strategic. I am very focused. I go forward, and I can't help you because if I give you all the steps and lay it all out for you, you're going to self-sabotage it. I can't help you with that. So then I would suggest one of my clients, maybe as a personal development coach or something like that. First, get that worked out, because they will find a way to self-sabotage. They will slow things down when it gets close to like launching the website or really putting themselves out there. They're gonna. I mean, I learned by just taking the wrong clients. Even when I knew, like, one, it's like 5 months into it, she said to me, well, I have imposter syndrome. I didn't tell you that. After 5 months, and I'm like, well, gosh, I should have seen this many times. We're putting on the brakes and trying to stop things and make excuses. And I'm just trying to pull her along and drag her along. And no matter what I do, no matter what I offer, there's no way I'm going to turn that person around. So yeah, I see it, but I don't play that game, because if they're coming to me, that's not my expertise to help them get out of that.
You know, in your experience, talent, this is talent really important to, becoming a leader in your field or becoming successful, or can you become successful in spite of not having quote unquote talent?
Yeah, I have some clients that are really talented. Like they're really gifted, they're funny, they're engaging. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna blow this out of the water. They're but they're really talented, but they're like procrastinators. It takes them too long to get stuff done. They don't follow up. So they might be talented, but then they don't have the good business skills of sales and marketing and follow up. So they're not always the ones that make it. The ones that make it usually are the ones that are really passionate. They have the vision from the beginning. The vision's big and they're willing to do the work. And man, they're following up and they're working and they're doing even more than I ask them to do. Like those are my superstars. Like they're great students and they go even higher. I've got a gentleman who's been with me for 8 years, and I think that he had a lot of talent because he was used to being on stage as a performer. Then he got in 40 years in the salon industry. And then he kind of wanted to go back to stage and be a speaker. And he met me. And then, now he's learned not only to be a good speaker, because he was kind of pitchy. He was kind of Mr. Slick when he started, not truly authentic tapping in. Now it's like he's oozes of charisma, but he's real and he's so tapped in. He's just like, he walks in a room and this guy's no youngster. He's 75. He's dressed to the nines, even if he's casual. He's like, who is this? Everybody turns and goes, when he walks in a room, it makes an impact. So then imagine that look and then getting on stage and being able to kill it. And he learned not only from be a good speaker for me, putting that business together and then being a consultant. Now he's closing. He just told me, we just talked yesterday, he closed $200,000 in the last week on stages because we got him in the salon industry. And now he's like kind of the king of the salon industry, speaks on communication skills and team building and sales, but really all based around communication. Yeah, 200,000 in a week. You don't have to work very much. He does spring shows, he does fall shows, and in between he just does stages or does whatever he wants to do. And he's got $500,000 business like that is a lifestyle business. We don't have to even work that hard, and he loves it because that feeds his performer being on stage. He's gotten so good, but he went way past the performer and talent. He went to he learned how to sell. And he don't even close. He will go to these things and he will do like even breakout sessions, which is usually 100 people in a room at those big trade shows. And he will close with an application close that I taught him. And so that you don't take any money, you're just getting leads, right? They're filling it, and then you get them to a call and then you learn to close them on a call. And that's how he's closing, $200,000 from a couple shows he did, just doing the calls and closing them that way. But no money exchange, 1 hour of his time, and it's freaking brilliant, but he's mastered it. And anybody really can master the skill, but they can't master the skill if they hate sales. But I've had people come and say, I hate asking for money. I don't like sales, whatever. How can I do this? And it's like, I have to teach them to be the same when they're making an offer in that same conversation mode and that same heart-based all the way through their presentation. And when they've got that, they can pretty much write their own ticket. That's really fun. That's what I love doing right now the most is teaching people that skill because it's such a huge ROI.
Yeah, I think some people know how to sell really well, but they don't really know how to market themselves really well. And people want to speak, but not sure which stages are going to be the most impactful for what they present. Do you recommend people just go and speak as much as possible anywhere, just kind of start honing their skills, or obviously they should engage with you and your services and get coached how to do it correctly? But is there a way to bridge if they have this natural ability and skill set, desire to sell, with what do they do then now to market themselves so other people can amplify their message?
Mm-hmm. It all comes down to that expert positioning foundation. So you've got to position yourself as the expert to begin with. So, and then find out who your ideal target market is. Who do you speak to? Like, Glenn, even though he wanted to get in the speaking business, it was harder for him to get entrepreneurs to invest in his consulting programs, but when he got into the salon industry, they had the money. They had, some of these salon owners, especially the higher end ones, they own 40 salons. They've got a lot of teams. They've got a lot of money to throw at them, right? So he found his ideal niche that had the funds, and then he had to, of course, he spoke their language. But the thing is, you build a foundation of who are you going to be an expert for? What do you really know? And you build that foundation around your brand and your messaging and everything that's out there on the internet. And then you're known for something. I'm known as the world's #1 authority on expert positioning. Although I do a lot of that, I still love the next level, which is the speaking to sell. They have to start with expert positioning first. But that's why people stay with me for years, because they'll come for the expert positioning. That'll start working. They'll get a speech going that works for that ideal target market. I help them figure all that out, put together that, and then they're going to start with a coaching program or consulting program. So some people are coaches. They don't come to me as speakers, but I get them on stages. And then some people are speakers that are like road warriors. They're like really successful speakers right now, but they have no life. So now they're coming to me going, I need to learn speaking to sell. And I need to do events because I can't just go from gig to gig. I have one gentleman right now. He's booked solid. He's just like always gone. And he's a very successful speaker. He was in a plane crash. That plane crash in the Hudson. You've seen that movie, Scully.
Yeah.
He was the last person off the plane. He saved a bunch of people, pushed him into a bunch of media from that, pushed him in the speaking business. Then he's just started growing and started really, hiring coaches to get better at speaking. Then he's come to me this last year and said, I can't keep this up. Like now it's not sustainable. And so I'm going to end up in divorce, or I'm going to end up sick, and I can't just be always on the road. So I need to learn this, but I don't have any time to learn this. Like if you could just teach me a basic one, like application close, I go take the leads and then teach me a little bit about how to do from the calls. I can start with that, but I want to put on an event. And so I said, well, you don't have any time to let me train you to master this. And you don't want to be putting on an event for even 100 people and then trying to make an offer. You don't want to wing it. You got to, so he goes, I want to hire you to sell. Can you do that? And I never even thought about that till he hired me. Then I just kept getting hired. I don't just have people hire me for selling at their stage. I mean, they have to be a client that's worked with me, because I put their offer together. I believe in them. I believe in their offer, and I can just sell from my heart. I can't just go on stage and be an actress and pitch somebody stuff like that. I just can't do that. That's not my thing. But when my heart is in it, I'm like, yeah. I said, just don't be mad at me when you have to pay me a hell of a lot of money when you're sharing part of the sales with me. He's like, no, I wouldn't be, because I couldn't do it by myself, and I need to launch this. So some just want me to close. They don't want to learn to close, and some want to master the skill so they're not joined at the hip with me or somebody else, and they can just do it over and over once they master it. But it's just like any skill we do, anything you've learned, Len, it took you time. How many episodes of this podcast you've done, and now you got it nailed. It's like you just don't wing it, and you don't get good the first time out of the gate.
Yeah, I think that people see the finished product and they don't know the time that goes into it and how many times you've made mistakes and you failed. And I think it separates people. It really separates people and we talked about, failure as well. For me, it's a learning experience. Like fail fast. Let's go and make the mistakes and learn from those experiences to win. Like I want to win, but I don't mind failing down the road. I think that's an intangible. I'm not sure if that's a learned thing. Resilience, maybe there's genetics to that. I'm in the genetic business, so I need to start looking at, genetics and epigenetics for resilience. But if I were to ask, and I've talked to enough entrepreneurs and successful people over the many years, this resilience thing is really the big separator. It is, I'm going to do this. And it's not denial of fear or concern. I see it here, but I'm going through this anyway, regardless of how I feel. And I think it's a huge separator between, people who are doing this and people who are comfortable in their 9-to-5.
You have to be really high on the resilience scale when you're an entrepreneur, because you get knocked down a bunch of times, but you have to have that attitude. You just don't give up. Like I just, fail, fail forward fast, get there. Come on, let's go. I'm not going to give up, like ever. And so I think that's a huge point you just brought up there. Like you got to build that resilience muscle.
That's it, and they keep working at it. So I have a few questions that are sort of off topic that I ask all my guests. A lot of them music related questions. So, do you remember, and if so, the very first concert that you attended?
It was the monkeys. They had the TV show, and then I was like, I remember me and my girlfriend made like these little candy bouquets that we could throw on stage, and we get there and we're like a million miles back, standing on our chair because we can't hear the entire concert because everybody's screaming. It was pitiful, but
It's
I
funny.
remember it.
Yeah, people. The Monkees were an actual band. Yes, they had a show, but they were an actual band you could go see. So, what was the last concert you attended?
Oh God, the one I still want to attend is Lambert, his Queen show, right? Because like I love Queen, like
Adam
that
Lambert.
music. Oh my gosh, or any old R&B stuff. I think that was probably the last one that I just did was, some old R&B music. Earth, Wind and Fire. Like, duh, I love them.
Yeah, they're playing the
Hardworking
Hollywood.
band.
Yeah, they're playing the Hollywood Bowl coming up, so that'll be interesting in LA. All right, so another music question. For the next year, you can only listen to 5 albums. Now, you don't have to remember the name of the actual album. It can be Monkeys or whatever, Queen. What will be those 5 albums?
Well, because I'm always listening to downloading different things on my Pandora. So it's like what did I just download recently? It was Luther Vandross. Like what an incredible voice, Luther Vandross. Miss hearing him so much. George Michael. Oh my God, incredible voice. Just can't get enough of that. I'm still a little corny with the ABBA stuff. Like it just gets me going. That ABBA's got some fun stuff. Stevie Nicks. Oh God, classic stuff. Eagles, classic stuff. So these are just like, it doesn't matter how many years later, it's like classic music to me.
Love it. All right, so I have a final question I ask my guests. Please describe what your room looked like growing up.
My room, oh, it was perfect. My dad had built in a makeup corner for me. That's an interesting. I had the four corner bed, and everything was purple, and it was really beautiful. And so I was into makeup, and obviously, I had the lighted thing, like it was like a Hollywood, thing sitting there. I'm still a glamour girl, still high maintenance. So I guess I follow along that path. And my home
Any
is gorgeous, and every little piece of it, every little nuances. I'm into design and all of that. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I can definitely tell. Any art on the wall or anything, posters or anything like that that you can remember
Yeah,
those?
when I sit in my conference room that I am right now, I look across the room and it is a incredible picture of a spa in Morocco. When I was in the fashion business, I had carried a clothing line from Morocco, and I had these designers. They lived half the year in Santa Fe and half the year in Morocco, and they would tell me all these stories. And I finally went to Morocco last year, and got to experience, and it was one of the most unbelievable things I experienced. We bought some really cool things to bring back to our home. So it just brings me back to that memory of what we had there. It's third world, but it's cool, and there's so much art. It's this mixture of Spain and Africa and France, and it's just there's nothing like Morocco. I just absolutely loved it.
Colonized many times over and left little tidbits of different cultures in there that all
Yeah,
combined into
definitely
one.
the art, the craft. And this picture of it has like a lot of this incredible tile and workmanship, like we don't see now. So much art.
Debbie, where can people engage with your services? Where can they find you, find out more about you?
They can go to debbieallen.com. That's really easy. Just like, I got that one, not the other Debbie Allen guy, but Debbie Allen,
Does she try to
DEBBI.
buy it from you?
Yeah, no, surprised you. I've had that website, I've had that domain since 1997. Changed a few times, but yeah, they can go there. And also, I'd love to give everybody a gift. They want to be an expert. Like, there's so much money you can make in the expert world, and you can do it however you want, whether that's online or on stage or however it is. And there's so many different income streams you can create from that. Like, for listening, it's a $200 value. You go to expertpositioningsuccess.com. I'm sure you'll have that in the show notes. And you'll get a video that walks you through what expert positioning is, and then all of the multiple income streams that I've created for myself, for my clients, and you can pick and choose from that. And then there's an action guide that walks you through the process, and a 1-page business plan, because a business plan should be simple. It should be a visual, how much money you want to make, and then what income streams are around that. And then also I'm sharing a copy of my book called Expert Positioning, my last book. All of that's there for you for free, just being on, listening to Len and his incredible podcast. I appreciate being here.
Thank you so much, Debbie. And for my audience, look at that. You got wonderful gifts. And thank you so much for all the reviews. And don't forget to subscribe and like and share. We want to have, it's been an incredible journey, but these people come on and give their time. Let's see if we can amplify their messages. So I really thank you so much, and Debbie, thank you so much for being on. It's a privilege. It's wonderful what you're doing. I think putting everybody in a position as an expert. There's so many people who know things and they don't know how to amplify that message. I think it's a really, really important skill that you're teaching people. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, everyone. So does anybody know what greening out means? I've been the recipient of so many calls over the years of people greening out. That means they took too much THC and had an adverse reaction. So I always recommend other things, but nothing really concrete. Now I can. There's a solution. It is called Antidose. Antidose.com is quick. It's rapid. It works immediately, safe and effective. So I love my props. If you are toasty or you are burnt, that's the difference. Now, I also love the 1 gummy, 2 gummy, 3 gummy floor. So just be aware, very narrow therapeutic window. You know exactly what you can take now if you've taken too much. Once again, it's Antidose at antidose.com. Get yours today. Hey everyone, thank you for watching and listening. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, share this episode, and hit that bell. Like, comment. I so appreciate that. And check me out on social under Len May or Len May DNA. Find out more on LinkedIn or lenmaycoaching.com. And remember, everything is personal.